18 months after our first WGN Investigates report on questionable spending by South Suburban politician Tiffany Henyard, it appears she has been forced off the ballot.
It's official. Tiffany Henyard, the controversial mayor of Dolton, Illinois, and Thornton Township Supervisor, is back in the headlines. And this time, the drama has reached a whole new level. After losing her spot on the Democratic ballot for Thornton Township Supervisor in a whirlwind caucus marred by allegations of election rigging and voter suppression, Henyard has filed a lawsuit, claiming that the process was manipulated to silence her and her supporters. But the story doesn't end there. With her political career hanging by a thread and her community sharply divided, this saga is shaping up to be one of the most explosive political showdowns in recent memory.
Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard, who was appointed to that position tonight, lost her bid for the Democratic Party's nomination in this rarely used.
At the center of the storm is a rare Democratic caucus held by Thornton Township, a process that hasn't been used in decades. Henyard, who had hoped to run for re-election, was disqualified from the ballot due to what critics claim were technicalities deliberately designed to block her candidacy. The rule requiring a full slate of candidates, including a certified assessor, was cited as the reason for her disqualification. But Henyard isn't buying it. She's calling the entire process a sham, accusing State Senator Napoleon Harris, who led the caucus and nominated himself as the Democratic candidate for Township Supervisor, of orchestrating a hostile takeover. "You didn't run none of this the right way. Illegal Napoleon," Henyard was heard shouting after the 7-minute caucus concluded. Yes, you heard that right, 7 minutes. That's all it took for Harris and his team to lock in their slate of candidates, leaving Henyard and her supporters out in the cold, literally. According to Henyard, hundreds of her backers, many of whom were elderly, were forced to wait outside in freezing temperatures, barred from entering the venue under the pretense that a party was taking place. By the time they were finally allowed inside, the caucus was over.
This is my prime example of people that's puppet masters trying to control the narrative.
The fallout has been nothing short of chaotic. Henyard claims the caucus was an outright act of voter suppression, saying, "This is the biggest fraud I've ever seen. Why mute the voices of the people? If they thought they could beat me, they would have gone through the normal process." Her frustration was echoed by her ally Keith Price, who called the event criminal and accused Harris of deliberately blocking Henyard's supporters from participating. Meanwhile, Harris's camp has remained steadfast, insisting the caucus was conducted fairly and in accordance with Illinois law. The process was followed and it came out the way it was supposed to, Harris said in response to the allegations.
It should have been a primary. It always has been in the history of Thornton Township. Always. 10,000 residents come and vote for township government.
But let's take a step back and look at how we got here. Henyard's tenure as both mayor of Dolton and Thornton Township Supervisor has been marked by scandal after scandal. From allegations of lavish spending on taxpayer-funded trips to accusations of retaliatory tactics against her political opponents, Henyard has been a magnet for controversy. Just last year, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot launched an investigation into Dolton's financial mismanagement under Henyard's leadership, revealing that the town's general fund balance had plummeted from over $5 million in 2022 to a deficit of nearly $4 million by mid-2024. And that's not all. Henyard has also faced scrutiny for using public funds on personal expenses, including an eye-popping $43,000 spent on Amazon in a single day.
Because they can't beat me. If they could beat me, they would have went to the polls. But now when I bring the people out, you don't let them in?
These scandals have fueled a growing sense of discontent among Dolton residents, many of whom feel that Henyard has prioritized her own interests over the needs of the community. At a recent village board meeting, several attendees stood with their backs turned as Henyard spoke, a symbolic gesture of their frustration. Yet, Henyard remains defiant, insisting that she's the victim of a coordinated smear campaign. "Like it or not, I am your mayor," she declared during the meeting, comparing her resilience to that of a former U.S. president. "I'm going to come through on a landslide just like Trump did."
What do you do tonight if you don't get the Democratic Party's nomination?
What do you mean? I will be victorious tonight. You will see. My people are here. They're not going to go nowhere.
But Henyard's critics aren't buying it. Many believe her lawsuit is less about justice and more about clinging to power. One commenter summed up the sentiment perfectly. "I have no sympathy for her. She should not be allowed to run for any official government job. She's a total disgrace." Another added, "She definitely shouldn't be in power at all. At the same time, fraud is fraud." These mixed reactions highlight the complexity of the situation. While some see the caucus as a blatant violation of democratic principles, others view it as a necessary step to remove a leader they see as corrupt and unfit for office. And then there's the question of what happens next. Henyard's lawsuit is likely to drag on for months, if not longer, creating even more division within a community already grappling with the fallout from her controversial leadership. The financial cost of the legal battle will be borne by taxpayers, adding yet another layer of frustration for residents who feel their voices have been ignored.
You didn't run none of this the right way. Illegal. Napoleon.
But Henyard isn't backing down. She's vowed to fight the caucus results in court, claiming to have video evidence of voter suppression and other irregularities. "We have proof of everything we are saying," she told reporters. "I refuse to sit back and be silent against the injustice." Her legal team is also challenging the rule that disqualified her from the ballot, arguing that it's overly restrictive and inconsistent with federal court rulings. If successful, this challenge could set a precedent for future elections, potentially reshaping the way township politics are conducted in Illinois. Meanwhile, Harris and his supporters are preparing for a fight of their own. Despite the controversy, Harris remains confident that his slate will prevail, dismissing Henyard's claims as baseless. "This type of behavior speaks volumes about their priorities," a spokesperson for Harris said. "The focus should remain on addressing the critical issues that truly matter to the community."
People were getting let in at the proper time. We had a caucus, and the people voted for us slated candidates to represent them.
But what are those critical issues, and what do voters expect from their leaders? For years, Thornton Township has struggled with systemic problems like underfunded public services, rising property taxes, and a lack of transparency in how taxpayer dollars are spent. Residents have voiced frustrations over deteriorating infrastructure and the perception that local leaders prioritize personal gain over the community's needs. Critics of Henyard argue that her tenure has only worsened these problems, pointing to her alleged mismanagement of funds and the ongoing controversies surrounding her spending habits. Harris, on the other hand, has pledged to refocus the township's priorities on fiscal responsibility and rebuilding public trust, though details of his platform remain vague.
7 minutes. That's all it took for Tiffany Henyard to be out as the Democratic nominee for Thornton Township Supervisor, and she left here visibly upset.
Adding fuel to the fire, Henyard's decision to use township buses to transport her supporters to the caucus has also sparked debate. While her team claims it was a necessary measure to ensure participation, others have criticized the move as inappropriate and an example of her using public resources for personal political gain. Some residents at the caucus were quick to point out that many of the buses arrived late, leaving dozens of Henyard's supporters stranded outside the venue. As the dust settles, questions about the long-term effects of this political showdown linger. Will this legal battle further erode trust in local government, or will it serve as a wake-up call for voters to demand stronger accountability? Residents now face the challenge of untangling years of dysfunction in Thornton Township while deciding whether Henyard's polarizing leadership is worth salvaging or if Harris and his slate represent a fresh start. For a community already grappling with financial instability and leadership scandals, the stakes couldn't be higher.
New at 10 tonight, renewed calls for a change at the top in South Suburban Dolton.
Of course, we are talking about Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
At the same time, some residents worry that the escalating feud between Henyard and Harris is overshadowing the real issues facing Thornton Township. This isn't just about two politicians fighting for control. It's about us, the people, being left out in the cold again, one frustrated resident shared. Many feel that the ongoing legal drama and political infighting have turned their township into a spectacle, drawing attention away from pressing concerns like improving schools, addressing public safety, and creating economic opportunities.
Tonight's regular scheduled Village Hall meeting turned into political antics where the opponents for Mayor Tiffany Henyard say they're counting the days.
But what are those critical issues? For many Thornton Township residents, the answer is clear. They want accountability. Whether it's Henyard's alleged misuse of public funds or Harris's decision to hold a caucus instead of a primary, voters are demanding transparency and fairness in their local government. Yet achieving that goal seems increasingly out of reach as the legal battle intensifies and tensions continue to rise. So where does that leave us? On one hand, you have a mayor who has built her brand on defiance and self-promotion, refusing to back down even in the face of mounting opposition. On the other, you have a community desperate for change, willing to go to great lengths to unseat a leader they believe has failed them. And somewhere in the middle lies the truth, a truth that may never fully come to light as both sides dig in their heels. As the lawsuit unfolds, one thing is certain, the drama is far from over. Will Henyard's legal challenge succeed, allowing her to reclaim her spot on the ballot? Or will Harris and his slate emerge victorious, signaling the end of Henyard's political career? And perhaps most importantly, what does this mean for the future of Thornton Township and Dolton? These are the questions that voters and viewers will be grappling with in the weeks and months to come. Now it's your turn. What do you think about Henyard's lawsuit? Is it a legitimate fight for justice or a desperate attempt to hold on to power? And what about the caucus? Was it a fair process, or do you believe Henyard's claims of election rigging? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, stay tuned for more updates on this unfolding political drama. Until next time.